If someone had told me 2 years ago that the two people I loved the most would be the ones to destroy me, I would have laughed in their face. I would have said, no way. Not my wife. Not my brother. But here I am, standing outside my own house, clutching divorce papers that still smell like fresh ink, watching my brother hug my wife through the window like he belongs there. Like I never did. Funny, how life flips so quickly. One moment, you're building a future with someone. The next, you're watching it burn from the outside, wondering if any of it was ever real. I didn't plan to drive by the house today. I was just out, clearing my head, trying to breathe after finally signing the papers. But something pulled me here. Curiosity, spite, habit. I don't even know anymore. All I know is when I saw Ethan's car in the driveway, my stomach dropped like it was my first heartbreak all over again. There they were, Claire and Ethan, inside, close. Too close. She smiled at him. That soft smile I used to think was just for me. And he had the same smug grin he wore when we were kids, when he used to steal the last slice of pizza and deny it with crumbs still on his lips. You know what's the worst part? It wasn't even the betrayal, not really. It was the ease, the comfort, like I was the outsider looking in on someone else's happy home. Mine had become theirs. But it didn't start here. It started the night I opened my door to my brother, soaking wet and broken. It was pouring rain. I remember it clearly because I'd just come in from a long shift at work and was looking forward to a quiet dinner with Claire. I was peeling off my coat when I heard the knock, urgent, panicked. When I opened the door, Ethan stood there, drenched to the bone, eyes bloodshot, lips trembling. He looked like a man who'd lost everything. And he had. He told me he'd been evicted, that his girlfriend had left him, that he'd lost his job and didn't know where else to go. And without a second thought, I let him in. Of course I did. He's my brother. I brought him a towel, made him some hot tea, and told him he could stay as long as he needed. Claire came down the stairs, surprised to see him, but she didn't hesitate either. She hugged him tight and said, "You're safe now. We've got you." At the time, I was proud. I thought this is what family does. This is how you show up. I had no idea that night would be the beginning of everything unraveling. Looking back, I can't tell you the exact moment things started to shift. It's like trying to pinpoint the moment a crack forms in glass. It's fine. And then suddenly, shattered. In the beginning, everything seemed normal. We'd eat dinner together, the three of us. Ethan would make jokes, lighten the mood. Claire laughed more than I'd seen in a while. I thought it was a good thing, him helping us reconnect, helping her smile again. I didn't notice how often they were together when I wasn't around. I didn't question why Claire started making extra portions of dinner, or why Ethan always seemed to be wearing my hoodies. I didn't think twice when I came home early one day and found them laughing over an inside joke I wasn't part of. I trusted them, I loved them, I believed in them. And that's the part that cuts deepest. The betrayal only hurts because of the love that came before it. I keep asking myself, was I blind? Was I too naive? Too focused on being the ungood guy? To see what was happening right under my nose? I used to think trust was a strength. Now I wonder if it's just a beautifully disguised weakness. So here I am now, outside what used to be my house, watching the people who tore my life apart act like they're starting fresh, like they've already moved on, and maybe they have, but I haven't. I'm still piecing together the moments, still replaying the conversations, still asking myself how we got here. And the worst part, I still remember the love, the good times, the family dinners, the movie nights. The way Claire used to rest her head on my shoulder and say she felt safe. The way Ethan used to call me his hero when we were kids. All feels like a lie now. Or maybe it was real. Until it wasn't. This story isn't just about betrayal. It's about trust, blind faith, and how sometimes the people you'd walk through fire for are the ones who light the match. And maybe, just maybe, this story isn't over yet. Growing up, Ethan and I were inseparable. He was my little brother, my shadow, my partner in every dumb childhood adventure we ever had. If I got a scraped knee, Ethan was the one who'd run to get a bandage. If he got in trouble at school, I was the one who'd cover for him, take the blame, or sneak into Dad's office to delete the voicemails before anyone noticed. We were tight, the kind of bond only brothers can understand. But even back then, Ethan had a wild streak. He was impulsive, reckless, always chasing the next thrill. I was the grounded one, the fixer, the planner. the one who tried to keep us both out of trouble. That pattern followed us into adulthood. While I built a steady career, married Claire, and tried to build a life with structure and meaning, Ethan was bouncing between jobs, girlfriends, and cities. But no matter how chaotic his life got, I always made time for him. Because he was my brother. Because I believed he just needed one solid break. Claire and I had been married for 8 years by the time everything went wrong. She was my calm in the storm, level-headed, nurturing, always able to see the good in people. Even when we struggled, job changes, a miscarriage that nearly broke us, financial setbacks, Claire stood by me like a rock. She never wavered, never made me feel like I wasn't enough. She was. Home. She never really trusted Ethan, though. She never said it outright, but I could sense it in the little things. The tight smile when he visited. The way she locked her jewelry drawer when he stayed over. I brushed it off. I told her, he's just lost, that's all. He's got a good heart. He just needs someone to believe in him. Then came the string of disasters. Ethan called me one night in a panic. He'd lost his job after showing up late too many times, said his boss never liked him anyway. A week later, his apartment building caught fire. A cooking accident in another unit. He didn't have renter's insurance. Then, to top it off, his girlfriend of 2 years dumped him. Said she couldn't handle his emotional chaos anymore. He showed. Up at my door again, just like he had when we were kids, looking like a stray dog that had been kicked one too many times. And just, like always, I let him in. Stay here, I said, just until you get back on your feet. Claire hesitated, but she didn't fight me on it. She hugged him and said, of course, we're family. At first it felt almost good. Like we were doing something right. Ethan was quiet, kept to himself mostly. He helped around the house, offered to cook a few meals, even mowed the lawn without being asked. Claire seemed to warm up to him a bit. She'd ask how he was doing, listen when he talked about his failed relationship, offer advice. But then, things started to shift. Claire began cooking more food than usual. There was always an extra portion, like she knew Ethan would be hungry. They started staying up late, talking on the patio long after I'd gone to bed. I'd wake up and find coffee already brewed, not for me, but for them. I laughed it off. Honestly, I did. I thought, hey, maybe they're finally getting along. Maybe Claire was seeing the good side of Ethan I'd always told her about. Maybe he was finally getting better. And then came the little things. Ethan started wearing my clothes, mostly hoodies, saying he didn't have many of his own. At first I didn't mind. But one night Claire looked at him across the table and said, that hoodie looks better on you than it does on him. She laughed when she said it, but I remember feeling weird. I remember thinking, why would she say that? I started noticing how she defended him. If I mentioned that he hadn't been looking for jobs, she'd say, well, it's only been a few weeks. He's still processing everything. When he accidentally scratched my car backing out of the driveway, Claire said, it's just a car. Don't make him feel worse. It wasn't just her. Ethan started pushing boundaries too. He'd joke about how lucky I was to have a wife like Claire. He once said, while she was in the room, so if you ever screw this up, I'll be first in line. They both laughed. I did too. But something about it felt off, too close, too familiar. Then there was the night I came home early and found them on the couch, laughing, not just regular laughing, that deep, belly-aching kind that you only have with someone you truly know. I stood in the hallway for a moment, just watching. Claire saw me and smiled like nothing was wrong. Ethan tossed me a beer and said, oh man, you missed the best story. I laughed, sat down, played along. But inside, something shifted, just for a second. A tiny seed of doubt planted itself in the back of my mind. And once it was there, it started to grow. It was a Thursday. I remember because I'd left work early, a client canceled last minute, and I thought I'd surprise Claire with takeout from that Thai place she loved. Something small, something normal. I pulled into the driveway around, expecting to walk into a quiet house, maybe catch her mid-cooking or scrolling through her phone on the couch. Instead, I heard voices upstairs, muffled, close, urgent. I froze. There was something about the tone, not laughter, not conversation. Tension. I stepped quietly inside, closing the door without letting it slam. I moved slowly up the stairs, each step suddenly sounding louder than it should have. And then I heard it, Claire's
voice low and sharp. "Not here," she whispered. Everything in me went cold. I stood there halfway up the staircase, completely still.
For a moment, my mind raced. Maybe I misheard. Maybe she's on a call. Maybe, before I could do anything else, Ethan appeared at the top of the stairs, stretching like he'd just woken from a nap. He looked relaxed, almost bored. "Oh hey," he said. "Well, I didn't know you'd be home early." I tried to read his face. Nothing. No guilt, no awkwardness. Just Ethan, unbothered. Claire stepped out behind him, holding her laptop. "I was just showing him something," she said casually. "That YouTube channel you mentioned. The guy who builds tiny homes?" Ethan got curious. I smiled, nodded, tried to be normal. But something was off, in her voice, her posture, the way they stood apart but not far enough apart. My heart was racing, but I forced myself to let it go. That night, I couldn't sleep. They were acting normal, too normal, laughing during dinner, passing the salad like we weren't three people tangled in an invisible web. And I just sat there, watching them, every glance, every word.
That was the moment something inside me cracked. I started noticing everything after that. The way Claire's phone never left her hand. The way Ethan always seemed to shower right after her. The inside jokes, the lingering looks, the way they both stopped talking when I entered a room. It was like being haunted by a ghost only I could see. A ghost wearing my brother's face and my wife's smile. I tried to push it away. I wanted to believe it was just paranoia. I even checked Claire's texts when she was in the shower one morning. Nothing. No flirty messages, no deleted history. Just boring texts about groceries, work, and a group chat with her yoga friends. Felt guilty. Like I was the one breaking trust. Like I was inventing shadows in a well-lit room. I confided in my friend Marcus one night over drinks. He's known me since college, straightforward guy, no drama, always blunt. "I don't know, man," I said, sipping my beer. "I'm probably overthinking it. Maybe I'm just insecure." He looked at me, serious. "Look, I know you love them both. But are you sure you're wrong? I mean, if something feels off, maybe it is." That stuck with me. Maybe it is. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I set up a small security camera in the living room before a short business trip I had coming up. I told them I'd be out for 4 days, client meetings upstate, nothing out of the ordinary. The camera was tucked behind the bookshelf, motion activated, quiet. I felt disgusting doing it, like some paranoid control freak, but I had to know. I couldn't keep living in this half-reality where every smile was a question, and every laugh felt like a knife twisting in my gut. When I got back, I waited until Claire was at the store before I pulled up the footage. My hands were sweating, my heart thudded like a drumline in my ears. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, Ethan watched TV alone. Claire came in, sat beside him, they talked, nothing major. Day 3, I opened the file, the timestamp read, PM. I saw them sitting close, closer than usual. Claire's legs tucked under her. Ethan leaned in. She laughed, touched his arm. Then, it happened. She kissed him, not a peck, not a mistake. A slow, intimate kiss. Then she climbed onto his lap. He held her like he'd done it 1,000 times before. Her hands were in his hair. His mouth was on her neck. I hit pause and stared. Then I rewound, watched it again and again and again, each time hoping it would look different, that maybe I was imagining it, that maybe the footage glitched or blurred the lines. But it didn't. It was them. My brother, my wife, in my living room, on my couch. I sat there for I don't know how long. My hands were shaking, my breath wouldn't come. My whole body felt like it was buzzing, like I was outside of it, watching from somewhere else. There was no confrontation, not right away. I wouldn't. Not yet. I needed time to feel it, to let the truth sink in. That night at dinner, I sat across from them like nothing had changed.
Ethan talked about a podcast he liked. Claire passed me the rice and asked about my trip, and I watched them, really watched them. The way they looked at each other, the way their eyes flicked toward mine when they thought I wasn't looking. The performance, the masks. Everything I knew was a lie, my marriage, my family, my life. And all I could think was, how long? How long had I been living in this house with strangers wearing familiar faces? How long had they been lying to me? And how long could I pretend I didn't know? I didn't plan it. I didn't rehearse a big speech or wait for the perfect moment. I just reached my breaking point. The next evening, after dinner, quiet, just like every other lie we shared, I set my phone down on the table. No explanation, no lead-in. I opened the video, turned the screen to face them, and hit play. Claire looked confused at first, glancing between me and the phone like she expected to see a meme or something from my trip. Then she saw it. Her Ethan.
The couch. The kiss. She gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. Ethan leaned forward, staring at the screen like he couldn't believe it was real, like he hadn't lived it. "Wait," he started, his voice already trembling. "It was a mistake." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't ask why. I just said, "Go get out." Claire started to speak. "Please, just let me explain," but I cut her off with one look. Ethan stood slowly, his chair scraping the floor like a scream. "Oh man, I didn't mean for this to happen. I swear, I was just lost. We were both, get out." He left. And just like that, the person I once called my brother became a ghost. Claire didn't leave right away. She followed me into the kitchen, into the hallway, into every room I tried to escape to. Her voice cracked. Her hands shook. She cried, begged. "It didn't mean anything," she said. "Then why did you keep doing it?" Silence. Finally, she looked at me. Red-eyed, raw, I felt invisible. For months. "You were working late, buried in projects in your own world. And Ethan, he saw me. He listened. He made me feel." She stopped herself. But I knew the word she wanted to say. Wanted. I didn't scream. But something inside me shattered that night. I sat on the edge of our bed, my bed, staring at the same four walls that once held laughter and dreams, now echoing with betrayal. I didn't sleep. For days, I wandered my own house like a stranger. I didn't go to work. I didn't answer calls. I drank too, much. Stared at walls. Slept on the couch because the bed felt like a grave. Claire stayed in the guest room at first, then moved out 2 weeks later. We barely spoke. When we did, it was mostly her crying and me saying nothing. I started therapy. It felt stupid at first, talking to a stranger about things I barely wanted to admit to myself. But the therapist asked a question that stuck with me. "Do you believe any of this was your fault?" And that's when the real pain started. Because deep down, I started questioning everything. Was I a bad husband? Was I emotionally distant? Did I push her into his arms? Had I failed? Both of them? I went through old texts, photos, anniversary cards, looking for clues. Something I missed. A warning sign I ignored. One night, half drunk and unable to sleep, I found an old photo of Ethan and his ex, the one he said dumped him because she couldn't handle his chaos. Her name was Leah. I still had her contact info from some dinner years ago. On impulse, I messaged her. She replied, the next morning. Said she'd been waiting for the day someone else saw through him too. We talked for hours. And slowly, a different picture of Ethan emerged. Not that lost soul I'd spent my whole life trying to rescue. Not the little brother, who just needed one more chance. No, Ethan was a pattern. Leah told me how he got close to her sister when they were together, how he'd cry and spin stories, to keep her from leaving, how he always blamed others, how he always made her feel like she was the problem, the same fire, different house. And suddenly, I saw it all clearly. Ethan didn't fall into chaos. He brought it with him, and I had opened the door wide and invited it into my home. For years, I'd made excuses for him, covered for him, saved him. But this time, he burned everything I loved. I filed for divorce that week. Claire didn't fight it. She signed the papers with tears in her eyes, but no protest. I blocked Ethan on everything, changed my number, told my parents they didn't take sides, but I didn't care. I wasn't asking for permission anymore. I was done being the fixer. I started journaling again, something I hadn't done since college. It felt weird at first, like talking to an old friend you hadn't seen in years. But slowly the pages became a safe place, a mirror that didn't lie. I wrote about the nights I cried in the shower, about the guilt, about the rage, and eventually, about the release. The pain didn't vanish, it never does, but it shifted. It became clarity. I saw my part in it, not as the villain, but as someone who ignored red flags for the sake of keeping peace. Someone who confused loyalty with self-destruction. And in that clarity, I found the smallest sliver of peace. I wasn't broken, I was just waking up. It had been a few quiet months, the kind of quiet that feels earned, not gifted. Therapy was helping. Journaling, too. I was still healing, still waking up some mornings with that familiar tightness in my chest, but the fog was starting to lift. The house was emptier now, quieter, but it was mine again. And then I saw him. I was at the grocery store, picking up milk and some oranges. Something ordinary. I turned down the bread aisle and there he was, Ethan. At first I didn't recognize him. He looked different, gaunt, scruffier than usual, clothes wrinkled, hoodie stained. He was holding a half-empty basket and staring blankly at a shelf of cereal like he couldn't remember what he came in for. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then he saw me. His face tightened. He gave a weak, almost ashamed smile. "Hey." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. My eyes must have said everything. "I know," he said quietly, "and you probably never wanted to see me again." Still, I said nothing. He nodded. Slowly. Claire didn't. She didn't stay. That got my attention. He looked down at the floor like he was trying to hold himself together. She blocked. Me, weeks after everything. Just cut me off. I thought maybe. He trailed off. I don't know what I thought. I wanted to feel satisfaction, maybe even justice. But all I felt was a strange ache. "Hollow," he continued, voice barely above a whisper. "She told me I was just a distraction, that she never really planned to leave you, that it was a moment of weakness." He glanced up at me, eyes red, said I reminded her of everything she hated in herself. I stood there frozen, not out of pain, not anymore. But realization, they didn't just break me. They broke themselves. I left without saying goodbye, without another word. That night, I sat in my car for a long time before going inside, staring at the dashboard, gripping the wheel. Something about seeing Ethan like that, unraveling, lost, reminded me of something I'd been trying to forget. Claire had been trying to contact me, through mutual friends, through old email threads. Even sent a few letters I never opened. I'd ignored them all, thought I was done. But curiosity got the better of me. I called Marcus, asked if he still had the letter she passed through him weeks ago. He did. He dropped it off the next morning. Cream envelope, my name written in soft cursive. I stared at it for almost an hour before I finally opened it. Inside, her handwriting was neat, careful. Every word looked like it was trying not to bleed too much. "I know you have no reason to read this, but I needed to say these words somewhere. Maybe it's selfish. Maybe it's pointless. But here they are anyway. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I destroyed it. The affair wasn't planned. I wish I could say I was drunk, or angry, or heartbroken. But the truth is, I was lonely. And Ethan? He was just there, hurting, open, talking to me in ways you hadn't in months. I confused that vulnerability for love. I mistook his chaos for passion. He told me one night that he always envied you, your calm, your career, your home. Me. He said he'd never measure up, that everyone always looked at you like the hero, and I let his pain become mine. I let it seep in until I didn't know where he ended and I began. We didn't fall in love, we fell in destruction. And you were the one we landed on. Sue didn't deserve it, any of it. And not a day goes by where I don't wish I could go back and shake myself. Scream, run. I know I lost the right to say this, but I'm sorry, for all of it. I'm in therapy now, alone, trying to understand why I let myself ruin the only real thing I ever had. I hope you find happiness again. You deserve to be loved right, completely. I'm sorry I couldn't be that for you. I set the letter down, feeling nothing at first, just stillness. Then, like a slow wave, a sadness that was deeper than pain, a sadness that didn't sting, it simply existed, because I finally understood. This wasn't just a story about betrayal, it was a story about two broken people who clung to each other like wreckage from a sinking ship, and dragged me under in the process. Claire and Ethan didn't win, they didn't get a fairy tale. They got each other for a moment and then nothing. She was alone, he was lost, and I was, standing in the ruins, not just surviving but finally seeing they hadn't destroyed me. They had revealed me. I wasn't the villain, I wasn't the fool, I was the one who kept showing up. The one who gave everything, the one who loved, And in their absence, I found someone I'd forgotten about entirely, myself. It's strange how something so loud, betrayal, heartbreak, collapse, eventually fades into silence, not forgetfulness, just peace. I used to think forgiveness was about giving someone else a second chance, about letting them back in. But now I realize, sometimes forgiveness is just setting yourself free. Forgiveness doesn't mean I want them in my life again. It doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't rewrite the footage I watched in my living room, or the silence that hung over our final dinner together. But it means I don't carry it every day anymore, because some betrayals don't ask for revenge, they ask for distance. That time passed, seasons changed, and slowly I started to come back to myself. I picked up old hobbies. I reached out to friends I'd pushed away. I started walking every evening, not because I needed to escape, but because I wanted to breathe. I learned how to enjoy my own company, again, to find comfort in solitude. And with each small win, getting out of bed early, finishing a book, making a home-cooked meal, I felt a little more whole. I'm not angry anymore, just wiser. And if you've ever been there, if you've ever been betrayed by the people you loved most, I want you to know something. You're not broken. You're not foolish for loving, and you're not alone. It's okay to cry, to scream, to not understand. It's okay to grieve a future that will never happen. And it's okay to take your time finding peace, even if that peace looks different than you imagined. Because healing isn't a straight line. It's messy, it's painful, and sometimes it's just getting through one more day. But it's possible. I thought I lost everything. But in reality, I lost the illusions and found the truth. I found strength, boundaries, self-respect, and maybe that was the real gift buried under all the rubble. So I leave you with this, a question I still ask myself sometimes. Would you forgive the people who destroyed you? If they swore they never meant to? Let me know in the comments below. Because maybe your answer will help someone else find theirs. Fade out.